And we are live. Welcome everyone to episode 25 of Two Guys Talking Craft. My name is Adam Coots and I am from Unstoppable Acting Studio way over here in Scotland. And in a moment I'll be joined by Jared Kellner from Actors Approach Craft Technique Toolbox in New Jersey, USA. And it's amazing. We are now well over a year of Two Guys Talking Craft. I think we'll have a little party episode. I went very Scottish there. A little party episode. Thanks, Sarah Louise, for the party emojis there. That's awesome. But yeah, I think we're going to... but we have some deep Uta Hagen work to share with you this evening for the remainder of this evening. So we're going to be focusing all on that. Isn't that right, Jared Kellner?
Hey now, how are you?
Doing very well, my friend. How are you doing?
Good. Missed you.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been absent for a couple of weeks now. I went on my holiday bags down to London, and now we're back. We're back. Are you on the road just now? Are you elsewhere?
I'm in Atlantic City.
Ah, lovely. Very nice.
Yeah.
Nice place to be. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Shout out to everybody joining us at the moment as well, Jared. We've got Thomas here. We've got Indra. Respect, Indra. I want to do a shout out as well to a gentleman in Mexico, Jared, who's been checking out the podcasts. He dropped us a message the other day. His name is Nat Basilo, and he's been enjoying the podcast as well. So respect. Thanks for joining us from Mexico. We appreciate it. Wherever you're joining us from, we are eternally grateful, right,
Bienvenidos.
Absolutely. I can't join in with that, I'm afraid. But I can join in with loads of acting chat. That's what I can join in with.
My 7th grade Spanish class. Yo tengo un lápiz amarillo y grande. That's I have a yellow pencil.
But you say it so passionately that for a man that doesn't know a word of Spanish, you could have been saying anything. But hey, we've been on a huge journey unpacking this respect for acting. We've been learning out loud as we go. And then if you haven't checked out these previous episodes, we've dived into a whole heap of Uta Hagen's philosophies, her exercises, shared our opinions. If you're listening to the podcast right now, you're missing Jared playing around with the book like it's a spaceship, I think. Is that what you're going for there?
Sure. I'm just having Uta Hagen's respect for acting. Yeah, we're nearly done. Depending upon how much we babble, we may or may not get done with the book, but I think we might get done today.
It's possible, right? We're going to race through it. I'm really excited in that these are some really meaty things. So certainly, in my opinion, these first 3 chapters we're going to talk about are like, we always say, right, there's never one way of doing things as an actor. Right, and if an acting coach ever tells you that, be a little bit suspicious of them. But I feel like these 3 things we're going to talk about, if you ignore them, then you are making your job so much harder as an actor. You can ignore them, but I feel like if you do it at your peril, in my opinion. I think shout out to Bobby Iceman, who's just joined as well. Hey. Our good friend Bobby. But what's your opinion on that, Jared, for this first 3 coming up?
Yeah, I mean, these are foundation. You're talking about objectives, obstacles, and actions. 3 mega important topics to explore. But the other ones, there's the rehearsal, practical problems, communication style, epilogue. Not as much meat on the bone, but it's still some really important stuff to go explore. So. Let's jump in.
Let's dive in. Starting with objectives. Now, I think a lot of actors will know and be aware of objectives. They'll sort of be aware that they should be maybe sort of trying to do something within a scene. But I don't know how faithful people are to actually doing the work to decide on the objectives with the level of depth that they could, I feel.
I've had many students that have said in the past that they hate the script analysis part of the process, right? They just want to get up on stage and do the work. Give them the script, let them go improv, let them go explore. and they don't like to do the pen and paper type investigation into the script, to be able to then come out with what the objectives, the obstacles, and the actions are. And when they step away from that feeling of I don't want to do quote unquote homework, when they allow themselves to jump in and really do the due diligence to investigate the script as it's the source data, and extract from that what it is that they're really doing, what are they fighting for, why do they want what they want, what happens if they don't get what they want, what's in their way of them getting what they want, how are they going to go about doing it, and if they hit a wall, what are some other tactics that they could take in order to try to accomplish that. And when they stop and really think through this process of what I want at a big level, at a scene level, at a moment level, and all the things that are in my way of accomplishing that. And it's what I need, what I'm fighting for, not what I have to do. Once they understand the value of that kind of an analysis process, the quality of their work catapults. It's so better, so much more meaningful.
100%. It's a life raft, Like I feel without it, you're splashing around. Like you can maybe try and get by, and there's many times when I've been coaching actors and I ask them about the objective, they maybe say, I haven't really thought about it yet, or I don't know, or I think it might be this. And a lot of the time, that is the key to unlocking their performance, the fact that they just haven't made a decision about it. Done the work, they've done the preparation to come to a decision about that objective. And I think you can get by with very general wishy-washy acting without the objective, without the obstacle, without the action. But if you want to be great, if you want to be, delivering a quality of acting that's going to really, open people's eyes, you can't sleep on this stuff, I think.
It gives you specificity. And without really knowing what it is that you're fighting for, what your end goal is. And that's life, right? We don't just meander through life without a purpose. Maybe some people do, right? Maybe those are the lucky ones that are just enjoying their life on the beach. But in general, we don't just meander around life without a purpose, without a focus. And it should mirror that on stage. And so, look, it's okay if actors come to you, come to me, come to a class and say, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's a fine place to start so that we could go explore, have the dialogue, have the discover it, make choices, and go attempt to work, to work towards that objective. The issue that I take is when actors don't want to even explore. They just want to go and do. They want to feel something. They want to let their charisma or their energy or their adrenaline take over. That's not repeatable and dependable. That's not a craft process. That's not something that you can rely on multiple shows per week for an extended run, right? That's a flash in the pan, and maybe you hit somewhere on the target, but it's without specificity and purpose. So I'm okay with people coming and saying, I don't know, help me. And let's go explore.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it's just being that open to understanding the importance of it, and let's preach the word of Uta, because we haven't quite shared any of her words yet this evening. She says, no human being, just what you were saying just now, really, Jared, no human being is without having wants and drives. And that's something we're constantly striving for. And I was thinking about that, even in the context of this podcast, right? Like, you and I would probably, because we're good friends and stuff, have very similar sort of objectives through it. I mean, we want to definitely add as much value to people as we possibly can. We want to be sort of learning in the process and journey of learning together and stuff. Like we could start picking apart a wider objective for this podcast alone, right? And I think even those people that you said, maybe go through life seemingly on the outside with no purpose. The way the brain works, there's always going to be something, right? Like otherwise you're dead, I think, if you don't have some kind of purpose, big or small.
And so I mentioned it before, you look at what Uta Hagen is talking about in terms of objectives. You have your overall objective. This is, at a high level, this is what the goal of the character is throughout the entire journey of the script, whether it's a play or, a TV show or a film. So that's your overall objective, and then you've got the objective of the scene. And the way I look at, and then the moment, like what is it that you want right in the moment? And I look at everything that you do should get you one step closer to the ultimate overall objective. And so if your moment objective doesn't get you closer to the scene objective, which then does get you closer to the overall objective, you're probably not on the right path. And that's, for me, that's what rehearsal process is all about, is helping the actor understand what those overall scene and moment objectives are, so that they can figure out what are the things that are in their way. Because it is always more interesting for an audience to watch a character fight for something that they desperately need and overcome those obstacles, because the actor is going to be fighting harder when things are blocking them, things are in their way, than just sitting back and just watching, the character accomplish everything that they want. We love to watch people struggle. We love to watch people overcome that struggle and then champion.
Yeah, no, we don't want to play it, right? Absolutely. Yeah.
You and I
shout out to
literally just wiped our nose at the exact same time. That was bizarre.
Whoa, that's freaky stuff there. Hey, shout out to our friend from India here. I'm probably going to absolutely butcher your name, and I apologize, but Moksha Dodwani, I think. Thank you so much. We're very grateful. Thank you very much for joining us. And hey, Bobby, thanks very much for the kind words, and good luck when you direct those actors.
Bobby, your point here is really important, right? So Bobby just commented, about giving him things to think about when directing actors. Absolutely, right? Part of a director's job is to work with the actor ultimately to help them bring to life the director's vision. And if the actor is not coming to the table with the quality of work that brings your vision to life in a truthful and authentic and meaningful way, then by you helping them discover the meaningful objectives and obstacles that are in their way that impels them in the direction that you're hoping for, that you're looking for to bring your vision to life, it's in your best interest to give that a lot of thought before going into the actual shooting of the scene, to say, hey, I think that your objective is something in this realm, and then work with the actor, plant some seeds and then let them go explore.
Oh, amazing. And hey, great comments, great questions in the chat. Please keep them coming as we go. Anything that comes up to do with Uta Hagen, we'd love to hear from you. And good turnout tonight, Jared, because I forgot to say, we're in competition now in the UK. We're in competition with this program called Love Island. It's kicking off. I don't know if you know of Love Island.
Sure.
Bunch of really good-looking people try to get together with each other. I mean, but respect to all of you who came to Guys Talking Craft instead.
Loyalist.
Because we're two good-looking people talking about acting. What could be better? Right?
We are very handsome. We have not passed our prime yet.
Exactly that. Yes, my friend, 100%. Just going back to the broader objective thing, I thought it was really nice how she put it. Like, in order to establish what that broader objective might be, she says you might want to ask the questions of, like, what do I want in relationship to the world, to my work, to the people in my life, like, so to start to sort of filter through those different things to sort of try to get on the radar what the right objective is for your character. And I think those are really nice starting points, isn't it, to ask those questions. And it's as you say, it's not that pressure of having to come up with the answer right away. It very much is the work through rehearsal. It's very much, the preparation that you do behind the scenes and stuff that you will slowly filter it out, Mm-hmm. And it's a difficult one. I always feel sometimes actors can be quite intellectual about it, and they can be quite wordy about the thing that they want, and then they try and rattle it off in a big huge paragraph or something, and that's fine, but it's very difficult to play that. It's very difficult to align with that just before you go into the scene, when you're sort of like, I want this, this because of this and because of that. Like, you ultimately, I think what's been helpful to me, you want to boil that down to something that's playable, a punchy sentence, like, I want a couple of words or something, that you can instantly just attach yourself to, and don't intellectualize it too much. That's something that Uta Hagen has preached throughout the book, right? We don't want to get caught in our heads with this sort of thing.
Yeah, you've said a couple of important things there. And to piggyback on it, what you come up with for your objective should propel you into action. If it all just stays intellectual and in your head, then there's really no use for it. It might be good to know, but it's not actually practical to use. So your objectives should propel you into action. And the way that you phrase them has a big impact on it. So she wrote, instead of, I need to be alone, convert that into, I need to fight for my freedom. I need to fight to escape. Right. So not passive, but active. And never I have to, but I want to, or I need to, or I must. If you have to do something, right? I have to clean my room. No, I want to clean my room. Must. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have to, it puts you into a negative state. So
Absolutely, and I she's saying, for the objectives, wants, needs, desires, just what you said. And I quite like what she said about that, the have tos, in terms of like, well, the have tos, they're your given circumstances. Like they are things, if you have to do anything, like those are things you can't ignore that are just around you at the time, sort of thing. I like that way of thinking about it, like that these passive things that you were mentioning is just part of the given circumstances of the scene, sort of thing.
agreed. There was a little anecdote about Stanislavski and personalization of the actions. I mean, the objectives, but why don't we just go on to obstacles?
Sure thing. No, absolutely. I just real quick, sorry, before we do, just this distinction between conscious and subconscious objectives as well. Like just to touch on that, and like it's this thing she mentions, I think, in this chapter as well, that we have this obligation as actors to know the person we're playing more than they know themselves. Through life, we're maybe aware of what we do consciously in the day-to-day, what we intend to do, but we maybe don't spend a lot of time swimming around the depths of our soul, what's inside of us, what maybe truly drives us, and I think that's a really interesting distinction between those two things as well. Like from my understanding, this sort of subconscious thing are things that the characters maybe not fully aware of themselves, but it will be a factor in driving them towards a goal. Like I don't know, if we go back to our podcast example, like maybe a conscious objective right now on the exterior for me might be I want to add value in the world about my knowledge of acting or something, right? But maybe subconsciously, maybe deep down, and I'm making this up, but maybe I was bullied from a young age, and I'm using this as a platform to prove my worth in the world or something. Like maybe that's something that's subconscious, the character might not be fully aware of. Like that's what I'm getting from this subconscious conscious sort of distinction here, Jared. Is that fair enough, or along the right lines?
Enough. You as the actor, you need to know more than the character in order to make decisions to bring the character to life. Yeah. Bobby wrote down what wants versus needs. I'm clumping them together, not that they're different, but I want to, I need to versus I have to. Right. The wants and the needs are the things that are going to propel you into action. The have to are it is what it is.
No. So in the perfect world, a character wants something, they get it, play ends, boom, it's all done and dusted. But we all know life's not that simple, Jared, right?
Yeah, we're Romeo and Juliet. There's no Rosalind at the beginning. He immediately falls in love with Juliet. The families are friends. There's no conflict. All the cousins are all very cordial to each other, and they live happily ever after. It's a 12-second play that nobody would ever want to watch.
Exactly. And it's real life as well, right? Going back to using the vehicle of our podcast, we want to come across very articulate in our communication, but then we have to wipe our nose. Perhaps we've got some technological difficulties going on. Like who knows?
Tech stuff all the time. Yeah, so those are obstacles to clearly communicating for sure. And then look,
Yeah.
life gets in the way, right? So you had a birthday, you and your wife went away for a bit. We have to have lives, so we push pause on an episode, right? So we have this this progression going on. So right, life gets in the way sometimes too. So
Yeah. And I was thinking about this, using your example of real life scenario, this guy who drifts through life with seemingly no purpose, right? Like he doesn't have a huge amount of objectives or whatever. But I think even for that person, right, they're still facing obstacles and that like,
where am I going to get?
eh,
I don't have a job. I have no place to live.
yeah, yeah,
Food, companionship, love. Yeah.
that struggle is inevitable. Like if you want to sit all day watching Netflix, like the obstacle is all the things that you've missed out on in the world that you could have experienced. It's just this constant push and pull, and like I don't think the obstacles are as tricky to come across and find as the objective, in my personal opinion, because I think there's a lot more avenues and angles to explore with the different obstacles, and like, you can have great fun exploring like a lot of the different obstacles that are going on as well. And she illustrates quite a few in this chapter, right? Like the
Yeah.
different ones.
Yeah.
So sorry, man. That's okay. She's sort of lists the different ones that you might want to explore, like your past, like time, the objects that are around you, the circumstances that you're given, the relationships that you have, like, and thinking specifically about each of those things, like, might bring up a number of different obstacles. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wrote down. The, um, I need to set the table for a very important meeting. Okay, I want to do it. I have an objective of, just fill in the blank, why I'm going to be setting up this table for this meeting. And so some obstacles could pop out based upon the character. My character is a perfectionist. Okay, so now everything needs to be incredibly precise. Those are obstacles for me accomplishing it quite simply. My past, I'm royalty, and I've never set the table before. I've only sat down at a table that has been set for me. So I've never actually done it. The time crunch, the guest that's coming for this important meeting will be here in 5 minutes. So I don't have the ability and the time to actually accomplish the task in a manner in which I would like. And then the objects themselves, the plates are brittle, the plates are dirty, the silverware is bent and lost, right? So everything that's involved in the activity is potentially another obstacle that I need to deal with and overcome in order to get to my objective of having a successful meeting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You could start sweating profusely, right? Like that becomes this obstacle as well. Like you want to be looking smart, and all of a sudden you've got sweat patches coming through and stuff. It's like you're wrestling with everything, and like you touched on this at the start of today. Like that to me is that when you're watching truly magical acting is a sort of push and pull thing that's going on. You can see that character wants something, but there's something in the way from them getting it, and you're just drawn to it, right? Like when those things are melded together in such a beautiful way, and the actor sort of connects with both those things, it's just so lovely to watch because you feel you've got this connection with them as an audience member. You don't quite know where it's going next. Like I think it's just the most lovely thing to watch, and hard to get them. Like hard to pinpoint these two things, but it is a lovely thing.
I don't want to jump past completing the obstacles, but part of what you're talking about hooks into the actions, right? The actual doing of it. And there's the famous saying of insanity is doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results. And so a really skilled actor is going to maintain their focus on their objective. They'll deal with the obstacles that are in their way of reaching that objective. But it's the tactics, it's the actions, it's how I go about getting what I want. And so if I have an obstacle and I'm trying to get to my objective and I keep hitting the wall, and all I do is continue to go straight and I don't try to go around or over or through somehow or underneath, if I'm not finding different paths around the obstacle to get to my objective, that's when it gets boring, because we in the audience, we sit back and we go, great, okay, yeah, they're never going to get what they want, right? They're just banging their head against the wall. So the really
Yeah.
entertaining actor is the one that finds all the different actions that help them overcome, get past the various obstacles in order to get closer to that objective.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully, you know, we kicked off this episode saying, you know, like, these are ones that if you ignore them, you're making your job harder as an actor. But hopefully you're starting to see the importance of having these things cemented, because it just gives you so much to play with as an actor. Once you've done that preparation work, once you've done all that stuff underneath the surface, once you've established these sort of pillars, and we'll talk about action quite soon, then it's always your anchor point, right? It's always your sort of life raft to play around with. You know, you've always got the context to sort of play around in.
There's no point in exploring the text, really, like purposefully exploring the text, if you don't know who am I, where am I, what do I want, what's in my way, how am I going to go about getting it, like all the stuff that's connected to the objectives, the obstacles, and the actions. If the actor comes unprepared and they don't know what it is and they want to work, there's no point to it, because really what they're then is a result. I want to be this character. I want to show that I could feel this thing, and I want to be a type. And I don't have an interest in exploring that. I do have. Okay, so Dana just joined. So hey, Dana, fantastic actress. She's one of the ones that does. She really does her homework. She gives a lot of thought to what's going on in the scene, the relationships, the environment, the circumstances, and always comes to the coaching sessions prepared with, this is what I want and why I want it. These are the things that I think are in my way. Let's go explore it. And this is what I'm thinking about trying to do in order to overcome those obstacles. So actors that take the time to do the homework really are the ones that ultimately succeed and then produce the work that we want to watch.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Shout out Dana, right? Shout out to you. Thank you very much, Richard.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for joining. And she argues later on. I don't know how much depth we're going to cover that chapter later on, but like when she talks about auditions, and she quite often gets asked about auditions, she's like, Uta or Miss Hagen or however she's referred to. How do like, I understand you want me to do all this work and stuff. You want me to do it for auditions as well. Like, I don't have the time to prep and stuff. She says, okay, even going in with an idea of an objective is going to make you stand out more in an audition situation, in terms of you have made a concrete choice and you're adding a level of believability to that character. You're not thinking the panel might want me to look a certain way, I better act to type in a certain way. You're saying, this is what I can bring. This is a choice that I've made about the character, what they want. And like that, it might not be the right thing. It might not be what they're looking for, but at least you're in the ballpark of making a choice, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Should we jump into actions a little bit?
I think so, yeah. I'm surprised how much we're racing through it tonight, Jared. We're doing very well here, yeah. Doing great. But yeah, I think so. Like, I think the only thing to just sort of put a line through with the obstacles is, I'd really like that she pinpoints like several different obstacles that you can think through. We mentioned it very briefly early on. If you're feeling stuck with finding an obstacle, she mentioned, you might want to think about the obstacle, the objects around you. If you're pushed for time, if you've only got 5 minutes to do something, the circumstances that are around you, the different relationships, all of those can be, just guiding lights into finding these obstacles.
If you don't have a series of obstacles that you're fighting against, you're fighting through, and you have just a clear path to reach your objective, it's actually kind of boring. So yeah. Obstacles, it's like the evil, right? The obstacles make the objective.
Yeah, absolutely. It just sprung to me right now. She ends this beautifully as well, this chapter, in speaking about, even if your character is sleeping, even if they have to sleep, like, you should still have some kind of obstacle, going on. Like, maybe they're having a nightmare, they're dreaming, like, whatever it might be. They might have a lumpy mattress. Like, you can explore any sort of obstacle. And It reminds me. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it was me last night. It was so hot in the room I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs, slept on the floor because it was a cold floor.
Sure. No, it is. It's reality, and like we've mentioned this character a few times, I think, in Two Guys Talking Craft, the spear carrier, right? Even the third spear carrier from the left that has no lines whatsoever in the play should have some kind of obstacle, right? Like something's going on under the surface. They have an objective, they have an obstacle.
Yeah.
Maybe, if they don't look agreeable to the king or the emperor, their head's going to be chopped off, and they have to make sure that they look as agreeable as possible. Like there's something going on all the time, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
you become the punchline to the joke of that spear carrier who has one line. Harku goes there, and the cannon goes off, and instead of saying his line, he goes, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So page 184, chapter 27, the action. I struggled with this one because she said something that offended me because at before, when I was 15, 16 years old and really first starting to learn acting, I was first exposed to the Meisner technique. And like I studied Meisner in New York and LA. And so it's part of my course. And she said something that I feel was a jab at Meisner. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't do that. And I got really protective. So
Yeah.
we know acting is doing. Acting is not reacting.
It's so funny. I noted this down, and I was going to ask you. What's your opinion on that, Jared? I was going to ask you.
Yeah. So acting is doing. I agree with that. She says acting is not reacting, as so many old pros insist. I'm like, back off. Like you could be right, but he could be right too. Like they can both be right. So
yeah.
Yes, acting is doing, but a reaction is a form of a doing. And I don't like it. I don't like the categorization. Look,
I think it was a pretty loaded comment. I do think it was,
Wow.
yeah. Knowing the, I don't know, like we've briefly went into the history about, how these guys, even though at the heart they want the same thing, they went off in different directions, all of that. Like it might just be a jibe, right? I was trying to get my head around where that might come from, because as you know, I'm also from sort of very much a Meisner background as well. I don't know, perhaps.
Well, maybe
I don't know.
that's here with us has an opinion about it too. So the point is, Sandy Meisner talks about acting is doing and acting is reacting. Don't do anything unless the other person makes you do it. What you do doesn't depend on you. It depends upon what the other fellow is doing to you. And in the book, Uta Hagen says acting is doing. It's not reacting. And so, look, I took issue with that. I think it's not mutually exclusive. And so if anybody has some thoughts on why would she have an opinion that acting is not reacting? And what are your thoughts on it? And so I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to justify like why she might say it, because she's been speaking so much sense, and in the book, things that just really sort of rung with me and all of that. And it's perhaps does it come from this place of where acting was more gesture, acting was more sort of look at me, and my reaction to a situation, coming from a place that's more passive, more ego. Like I was trying to find a way to justify it, but for me, reacting is still definitely, it's an active thing and it's doing. And I think if you don't think acting is reacting, then it's going to get into tricky territory, right?
I think so. I don't like absolutes. Yeah, I've said that before, that like if you're closing the door to a theory because of a belief system, there's going to be a time and place where that's going to sabotage your ability to do your work. And so reacting in the moment might be the best and only choice. And it is. So.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's funny, isn't it? Funny how yeah, these little things can prompt so
Yeah.
much. But but we can definitely bang her drum off like the importance of doing in acting, right? It's something that we've spoken about over our previous sort of 25 episodes of Two Guys Talking Craft, and sort of explored it ourselves, a little bit in a previous Uta Hagen episode. I think it was one of the object exercises ones we did, where we became the odd couple, and we were sort of peeling our apple, and
Yeah.
then the argument just through the act of doing alone, after doing a bit of character prep, and very little on my behalf on that one, so much is revealed of the character. Like that we no longer as actors have to worry about, are people getting what I'm doing? Do people understand what's going on here? Like, we don't need to give over to our ego in those situations. We can just engage with the act of doing, trust that all the work that we've done is there, and all just like as if by magic, right? Like, just things start to trickle out and appear from underneath, from our subconscious somewhere of the character.
Yeah, right. That's the result of the good work. That
Yeah.
stuff appear and trickle out unless you've done the due diligence, unless you've done the work.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. Like, yeah, if you go in with the doing alone, like, yeah, it's the flash in the pan stuff that you mentioned, isn't it? Like, it's if you haven't done the work, it might pay off, it might not, but you're playing an energy, you're playing. She goes on to, and we'll talk about this in a moment, attitudes, moods, and stuff like that. Like, that's the territory that you're in. Whereas if like you're doing something to make a change in someone, like that's where it comes from, really, isn't it? Like, to make a change in something or someone,
Yes.
like when you're doing it, like and she mentions, and I don't know, I was going to ask your opinion on this. So she mentions whenever she sees in her script, she's been asked to say something angrily, like, I don't know, Dave, angrily, Dave, mockingly, or whatever it might say. She just takes that black pen and scores right through it. That's quite prevalent in a lot of scripts, like that you see that. So what do you do, Jared, as an actor, when you come across a stage direction like that the playwright or the screenwriters put in? What do you do with that information personally?
Are you asking me as an actor or a
Sure.
teacher? Well, because the answer is different depending upon what.
I guess let's go the actor. Right. Yeah. Let's go that. Yeah.
Okay, so I read it, and I am an audience member first when I read it, which is something that we talked about.
Mm.
That adverb or adjective, it helps me get a sense of what is going on in the play, not necessarily how I would ultimately perform it, but it informs me on what this is, what the script is all about, what the relationship is, what's going on. So it gives me a better sense of reading it, right? Plays are not necessarily meant to just be read. They're meant to be performed and shown and shared and experienced. So it helps me get an understanding of what one production at one moment in time thought was going on the stage. And then I have intelligent conversations with the director about what their intentions are for this, along with my ideas of what this particular moment is. And if it's in alignment with what's there in the script, okay, I'll leave it as a reminder. If it's in complete conflict to what, our version of the story that we're trying to tell, I'll cross it off. But
Mm.
I'll be self open to use it if it's going to be beneficial, or get rid of it if it's going to hinder me in any way.
Mm.
Yeah, so I don't categorically just delete everything. Um, Sometimes the director will say to do that, and so yes, I'll whatever the director says I'm going to do, but I don't have a standard process every single time.
Sure. No, absolutely.
What
No,
about you?
I think that's a great answer. For me, yeah, I think I've never thought about it that way before. How you've put it there, of like, it allows me to get an idea of the writer's intentions, all that stuff. Like, it definitely does. Like, I haven't thought about that part. I always find it a very difficult thing to try and attain if I've been told to do something angrily. Like if I'm I've set my objective. I'm playing in the scene and stuff like that. And next minute, I've got this thing like that's just sticking out at me, like, you know, just flashing. In the next line, it says angrily, do something, you know, angrily. And like, I always find it very problematic. So I guess what I prefer to do is, if ever that comes up, change that adjective to a verb, to something that's doing. And instead of thinking it as like a reaction, which can become general wishy-washy, just
Oh, I
falls
love,
into the territory of bad acting. Like, I'm trying to direct a change in that other person. So rather than, if it said angrily,
yeah,
to scold, to
that's beautiful.
annoy, to mock, you know, like there's something along those lines. Like that, I find that much more useful than playing the emotion. And like, from Uta's opinion here,
Yeah,
she's saying we can never play an attitude. Like that's not something that we can do, you know.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Vocabulary.
yeah.
You you made a really important point, so I don't want to jump past that. So if the adverb or the adjective qualifying the attitude or the emotionality that is intended for that particular line gets you locked up in your head or doesn't naturally impel in you what the desired outcome is, it's a great suggestion. Convert that adverb or that adjective into something tangible, an action, right? To eviscerate, to scold, to crush, to something that's going to point you in the direction of the desired outcome. And that way you're working through the action as opposed to trying to leap over and be the result. Yeah, it's
Mm. I find it gets you out of your head as well. You know, like I feel like it can come in quite heady territory when you're starting to think of trying to illustrate or play an emotion. And I think it's the same thing that, you know, like in tears, you know, you get this direction that, you know, you've got to be in tears at some point. And like, we know that, well, some actors can just do it at the drop of a hat or whatever. You know, great if you can, you know, but for me, it's always much more effective personally if I'm just turning that into something like I'm trying to do something to the other person, and that maybe out of the frustration of it, I don't know, like tears will come or whatever, you know. I'm not trying to attain the emotion, basically.
Yeah, so you used exactly the word I was going to use. And so I'm leaping over to an Eric Morris quote of emotions are not something that an actor works for. An emotion is something that an actor attains because they have an experience. And it's through the action, it's through the craft tools that we actually have those experiences that the emotions are the result of. Yeah, so don't
Yeah.
work for it. Experience it, attain it by working through a different process, by working the craft, by working the action.
Sure, and yeah, very much. You were on to give me those words about attaining an emotion. I think that's the territory that Uta Hagen's getting at here, right? When she talks about like you can't play an attitude, or you can try, but
Yeah.
you're just going to get wishy-washy, general sort of stuff going on. Yeah, like angrily stamping your foot, shouting out and stuff, and yeah, nobody's going to connect with it in the same way.
Yeah, you know, it just becomes representational acting,
Yeah,
poor community acting.
yeah,
Community theater is poor, but poor theater that would appear more likely in community as opposed to professional.
sure,
Should
sure.
we jump
No,
to the
absolutely.
rehearsal, chapter 28?
I do think so. Yeah. I think we're ready to rumble. I think. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Going on that. That was the only other thing. Sorry, I did want to mention this, and I think you've used this analogy in the past as well, like saying you're a sports fan and stuff. You know, she says like if you drop the ball with doing, you know, like with trying to make a change in that other person or thing, right? All of a sudden you come off the ball, you slip back into your ego of did I do that well? Was that good? Did people see what I did there or whatever? You completely drop the ball. And she says, well, you know, if you did that in a sport, right? If you did it in fencing, for instance, like that's you've been stabbed or whatever, or you did it in tennis, like that's you just haven't hit the ball back, sort of thing. And she's kind of saying it's the same thing in acting, right? If you are dropping this intention of doing something when you're in there and you drop back into your head a little bit, or you start sort of losing your focus, then it's very hard to bring yourself back from there, you know. Like I think if you ever find yourself at that point, because it does happen, realign with your objectives, realign with what you're doing and the change you're trying to make. But interesting analogy, right? The sports thing. I think you mentioned that before, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, gee, just my heart goes out to the England national team. What a Euro tournament, and well, for our Italian friends, congratulations, and for our support, there is always next year.
There is, man. As a Scottish person,
oh yeah,
congratulations, England. Sorry, and well done, Italy. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying exactly the same thing that you said.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying there.
But with more
right?
pain. But with more pain. Chapter 28 on page 191. I wrote down a bunch of notes, but the key takeaways for me were just be a human being, don't be a jerk, and don't direct. You know, respect the director, respect the other actor, do your job as an actor, let the director direct, just do your job. And that the director is the equivalent peer of the musical conductor, and you would never walk over to the conductor and take his baton and orchestrate the orchestra, right? You wouldn't conduct. Don't do the director's job, right? If you have an issue of some kind that you're struggling with, have a private conversation with the director, but your job as an actor, your job is not to direct the other actors, and being that those are like my key takeaways from this chapter.
No, I'm the same. I mean, I loved how she started the chapter. I think that's really nice. The rehearsal, and I'm going to butcher some French and German right here. Rehearsal in the French is la répétition or whatever. That's my attempt. Which obviously maybe gives this sort of hankering towards it. It's a repetitive process, which she says is really not, but she says that she quite likes the German for it, which is die Probe, I think, which she says is more about probing and testing and trying and exploring and having an adventure, you know. And for me, like that, I love the rehearsal process. Like that's, you know, I love the preparation. I love the rehearsal. Almost my, you know, I don't not like it, but you know, it wouldn't be my first one I go for. Is the actual performance. Like I love all of that, the exploring, the finding out, the discovering and stuff. And I think that's what rehearsals are all about. And like, yeah, I think she went really heavy in this chapter with the whole respect thing, be polite. I mean, in many words, she didn't say this. I'm putting words in Uta Hagen's mouth here, but don't be a dick, you know? Like, and that's it, right? You're part of an orchestra, and you've got your part to play in creating this beautiful piece of music, or in this case, the world, you know?
5, she says, don't be a dick. I think it's right there.
Man, let's not do 5 episodes of Uta Hagen, 6 episodes, and people's takeaway is Uta Hagen swore in her book. She didn't say that. Yeah. Come on. But don't be is a big lesson, I think, it's not. But I think kind of, you know, it's a bit of a theme, isn't it? Like when we're doing our minds and our stuff as well, like a lot of these, you know, major acting practitioners, they talk about ego quite a lot. And there's no real room or space for it, right? In a professional capacity, you've got to leave your ego at the door because it's not going to help you or aid you in any way possible. Like you need to be there for your other actors. You need to be there to serve the text, to serve the director, and like it's not about you. At the end of the day, you know, you're part of a team. I think is. Yeah.
Just look at it like any other job, you know, like you go to work, you work at a restaurant, you work at a company, you work at a school, whatever, wherever you work. If you're a jerk, if you treat people poorly, if you make it all about yourself, you're not going to last, right? People are not going to, you're ultimately going to get fired, right? Just be the person.
Yeah. I think this is a difficult one as well. She mentions it. About the social aspect of it, you know, like you're together for a very short space of time in a very intense circumstance. And I personally find that I think it's just the type of person I am. You know, it takes me a while to build relationships and stuff, but I kind of tend to stay away from a lot of the social side. And I've seen it so many times in casts and that where so and so slept with somebody, and like all of a sudden there's rifts, and it just becomes this horrible environment to work in. And she's almost like, if you can't handle doing the preparation, doing the work, and the socializing at the same time, like just try and remove yourself from the socializing. And Hugh Jackman mentioned that. I mean, he's, you know, a nice guy, or he comes across as a nice guy in these interviews and stuff. And he's like, I have my party when I'm on the stage. I don't party when I'm out. And that's just a rule he's lived by throughout his career. And I think people maybe feel pressured into going into these social circumstances, but I think if it's going to affect the work that you do, and you can see there being negative side effects, like, it's fine. Like, just, it's tricky to say, nah, I'm not going to go to the bar tonight or whatever. But sometimes it is the best choice in those scenarios. And it was just something that she mentioned in that
Yeah.
chapter as well. I thought we've never spoke about that before, you know, like the social aspect of.
It's yeah, I mean it's so much fun. You develop these really strong bonds, these strong relationships in a really short amount of time. These like lifelong bonds. And it's hard, you know, to not be social and to just stay focused. It's definitely hard. And so then you as the ensemble, you need to rely on the director and the stage manager to do their job to keep everybody focused. Yes, it is.
Mm.
Who doesn't want to, you know, chum around with some friends and just, you know, sort of goof off and have a good time, let off some steam. I totally get it. But if that overtakes the progress that you make at the rehearsal, which
Yeah.
ultimately the goal of the rehearsal is to make some progress so you can put on the show, you're doing a detriment to the to the entire ensemble.
Yeah, and actors can sometimes be the worst for bitching and moaning and complaining and stuff as well. Once it gets a toxic environment, it becomes very hard to be creative and make things work. But like, you know, most of the time people are lovely, kind, respectful, polite, professional, because those are the people who work and work often, right? It's you know, people that don't have that going on, they maybe get a few jobs here and there, but word gets round pretty quickly, I'd say, about those things, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think I'm done on the old rehearsal part. Have you got anything else to add on rehearsal, Jared?
Yeah, no, I'm good. We could jump to chapter 29, page 200, practical problems.
Sure. She rattles off a load of different things. I guess to just give context to this chapter, she mentions these are things that actors often ask her about. She
Yeah,
just wants to contextualize some of these questions and these punchy sort of
yeah,
headings, you know. And like, isn't it? I feel like she covers a lot of this stuff in the book anyway, but these feel like, you know, little bite-sized chunks for people that don't want to dive into the book in a lot of detail, right? In some of these bits that she covers.
yeah. That's actually a good point, right? It's a good chapter to have some like sound bites that were mentioned earlier in the book. Some important topics. Um, Nerves are normal. Allow them to heighten your focus, not control you. Be as prepared in your craft as humanly possible. Um, Somebody said, "Do you think that I have talent?" And she says, "Never mind your talent. Do you have tenacity?" To quote her mother, talent is which many people have. What you make of it determines whether or not you will be an artist. And I love,
Mm.
yeah, talent. Many talent. You have tenacity. What are you going to do with it? Are you
Mm.
do at least one thing every day to advance your career, advance your craft, advance your skills, or you're going to take your talent and just be lazy and just use it, you know, only when you book a job, you know.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
have to have,
And I love that as well. And isn't it just the case in all walks of life as well? You know, like sports, whatever. And
yeah, sure.
you know, I find, you know, maybe I'm using quote marks here. The most successful people, right? Perhaps they didn't start as the most talented, but they put in the work day to day. You know, like they showed up day to day, and like, you know,
Yeah,
it's they don't sing and dance about it. Like I feel maybe the people that just rely on their talent alone are quite quick to jump to talking about how
yeah.
great they were, or who they worked with, or who they did this with. But the people that just quietly get on with their stuff day after day after day, that compounds so much over time. I'd say, you know, like, and talent will only take you so far.
I'm trying to remember who. I wish I remember who had posted it the other day on Instagram, but there was a post about Will Smith, He says he never thought of himself as being the most talented, but he is the hardest worker that he knows, right? So when, when you're sleeping, he's up working. When you're working, he's working harder. When you're done working, he's still working. And I think Mark Wahlberg is another one who is just tenacious. I think his ritual is like he wakes up, I don't know, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, works out for a few hours before, and like everybody's asleep, and he's already put in, a solid number of hours working on his body, working on his mind, working on his craft. Yeah, tenacity.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and this is a theme throughout our episodes, right? Like, I think we always say there's no shortcuts to get in there. Like put in the work. Like that is the answer. That's the thing that everybody's looking for. Right? Like in this chapter, she mentions about like people always ask her, "How do I get the job?" And like her answer, in as many words, is like you prepare. You market yourself. You try your best to put yourself out there. But then when the opportunity arises, you've done the work enough that you're ready to show up and you're ready to do it and give the best version of you. And that to me is the big thing, right? If you can say you've went through, done your thing, given the best that you can,
yeah,
then you can be proud of yourself, right? Like if you're phoning it in and going in with a half-baked effort, that's the sort of things you're going to regret. Like I think further down the line, like, but if you put in the work, like, good on you. Yeah, that does seem to be a focus quite a bit. I don't know about you, but I do get asked that quite a lot. Like, how do I get a job? How do I get on Netflix, get in a Marvel film or whatever? And like, I think the thing is play the long game and put in the work. And if those opportunities arise, because you have no right to get them, like they may or may not arise for you, and you might be able to put yourself in the position of getting there, you'll be as prepared as you possibly can be, to get them. Like,
yeah, and you auditioned for your career. Tim Phillips, wonderful teacher, author, book, DVD. Tim Phillips is a guy to research and train with out in LA, and then he goes around, I think, Atlanta, New York, and other places. But he talks about you audition for your career, not for the job. This casting director that's going to be, casting this particular role, you may not be the right fit. You might not be the puzzle piece that they're looking for that particular role. But you may be the perfect one for one next week or one next month. So always be prepared and audition for the career, not just for that one job.
Yeah, sure. And that's far from fantastic. I've heard that so many times, like years after, like when, like acting friends have, thought that they've forgotten all about me. They get this call out of the blue. Like it really is a thing, like totally.
So I'll share a quick story about that for me. Early on I had developed a reputation of being able to memorize my lines quickly, and there were like back to back within a couple of months of each other, actors that were in plays that either quit or got injured or got sick and dropped out, and they needed a replacement like really fast. And if you develop a reputation of being, a human being that is professional, that works hard, that is reliable and dependable, you're going to get called back. And so, yeah, there was this one director who contacted me twice to fill roles that were abandoned for a variety of reasons. And so I was cast in a couple of plays just because I was prepared and I was professional.
And a perfect opportunity to give a shout out to your memorization book, which is available on Amazon for memorizing lines, right? It's a cracker. It's a cracker. Check it out, everyone. There we go. Getting good at the old promo stuff. 25 episodes in. Yeah, I kind of picked up a mishmash of stuff here. I'll be honest in this chapter. Right. It was just a sort of smorgasbord of different things, like really.
Yeah, they were sound bites, good stuff, but sound bites.
Yeah. That's my main takeaway is like do the work. Do the work. Like that tends to be what everything boils down to. For all these questions was in the realm of like, how can I take a shortcut to get to what I want? Like do the work and see what happens. It's the
communication, chapter 30.
Yeah.
Do you
dive in?
One thing in here that I want to ask you about, but before I go, do you have something that's top of your list for communication?
Not in particular top of my list. I just got bits. She's saying like within the show, we can't lose ourselves completely in the play, in the character or whatever, like, because that falls into the realm of like psychodrama. It falls in the realm of like being quite peculiar behavior or whatever, and it's said it quite tongue in cheek, that you go off and you still live in the character. You still need to have an awareness of the audience is there, but like, in my opinion, like, you can't be taken in like what they're thinking, what they're feeling. She mentions it as a sixth sense, right? That you just need to have that awareness of maybe when they laugh, maybe when they have a little reaction to something or whatever. Because if you plow on, like they don't hear the dialogue or whatever, then there is a part of you that's not really doing your job as an actor, because they still need to hear what you're saying, right? So it's just, you can never fully shut yourself off that there's an audience there, in the act of communicating. That was one little tidbit I got from this one.
Yeah, that's the one that I wanted to bring up. There's a fine line between immersing ourselves in our work needs and remembering that we are preparing and I thought that was really well written. Immersing ourselves in our work needs and remembering that we're preparing and offering. Look, if you ever cross over and legit forget that you're an actor on a stage, you're not really that person. If that happens to you, something has gone. You have no longer become an actor presenting a piece for the entertainment of the audience. Something has come over you, and you've lost sense of your actual job. We've all been wrapped up in the moments where we're in a heightened emotional state, and we really are, believing that we're in this in these circumstances. But if you truly lose grasp of the reality, you need to stop and go seek some professional help. Because you're going to ultimately put yourself and your castmates at risk. What happens if you have a knife, even though it's a prop knife, and your character is about to commit murder or stab or something? If you truly lose sight of what's going on, you could do some serious damage. And so we always have to have that. Eric Morris calls it the 11th level of consciousness. She's talking about a sixth sense. We can never forget that we are just an actor on stage doing a role, right? We can do that and be fully present, immerse ourselves in the work, listen and respond, feel, act, react. We could do all of that and also be conscious that we're acting.
Yeah.
And so I caution untrained actors to just be careful that the end goal is not to lose yourself so much that you forget that you're actually doing a job.
Yeah. I don't know how truthful, great point. Like, I think perhaps it got blown up in the media and stuff, but like Heath Ledger's demise as well, like was heavily linked with, that he'd lost himself in the character. How much of it's true, we'll never know. Like, nobody will know for sure, right? But certainly his behaviors and stuff did have a lot of the traits of that character. Even you hear Daniel Day-Lewis, who goes heavy duty on, I'm not going to get out of the role. And I heard when he was doing Abraham Lincoln and he was being Lincoln during lunchtime, like a lot of the crew just thought, I'm going to use the word again for the second time tonight. I don't know what's come over me. A lot of the crew just thought he was a bit of a dick. Like, like just have your lunch, Daniel. Come on, like, we'll shoot in a bit. But it's what works for the actor at the end of the day, that stuff. And I'm sure Daniel Day-Lewis deep down still knows he's playing a character, all that stuff. He's one of the greatest actors of all time. Like, so who am I to criticize that at all? But yeah, I think it's an important point. It really is.
Very,
to make that distinction.
Especially in the world that we're in, where mental health is so prevalent. My public service announcement is to just say, if you ever do experience that, where you truly do lose yourself, push pause and talk to somebody, because it should not happen.
No, 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 absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's a great point. Look after yourselves, people.
Yeah.
One of the other bits I sort of noted down, and I wanted to ask you this question actually. So, like, she mentions about part of it is being prepared to share a vulnerability in a way that we wouldn't usually in normal life. That maybe it's something that's like behind closed doors or whatever, but you need to be open to, in a very public setting, public scenario with the audience being there, opening yourself up and being vulnerable. And we both went through Meisner training, all that stuff like that. That is a huge part of that as well, isn't it? Like opening yourself up to be vulnerable. So I just wanted to meander and maybe ask: do you remember the first time you felt like truly vulnerable when you were performing or on stage or anything like that? Is that a memory that you have?
Yeah. I was rehearsing All My Sons. I was relying on my Meisner technique, and it was not bringing to life what the director was looking for. It was the big conflict scene between father and son, and the director um, side coached and effective memory, like the Strasberg method acting process, which at the time I was closed to because it was method, it wasn't Meisner, so it was wrong, right? Me being stupid and foolish as a young actor. And under the guidance and safety of that director walking me through a personal memory of my father passing away, I became incredibly exposed, incredibly vulnerable and raw. And it was the path into the emotional life that was required of the scene that I could not get to by just living truthfully moment to moment, listening and responding using my Meisner tool. My imagination and my belief in the given circumstances of the script were just not activating what was required of me. And
Mm.
yeah, so that was the first time in my younger days where I remember being very vulnerable and feeling what it was like to still feel safe, be
Yeah.
exposed, be vulnerable, but feel safe, and put all of that into the work. So yeah,
Mm.
vivid memory. What about
I
you?
think that's. Do you know what? I can't remember the specific moment of it, but it was definitely within the realm of doing loads of Meisner exercises and stuff that I sort of felt that. And I think you make a very good distinction in that, like, it feels very exposing and almost like you're naked, right? Right, but emotionally or whatever. But it's safe, like it's a safe place, a safe environment to do it. And once you get to that state, I think it's so liberating and so freeing because you kind of feel like you can share your truth. Like you can share part of your truth. If you're open to being vulnerable,
Yeah.
then being truthful and being in the moment on, as an actor is just going to come so much easier to you. If you go to that depths and yeah, I think that's it. You've just got to be willing to, open up and lay whatever needs to be on the line in it, really. But also understand, as you've been saying, that it is a safe place. You don't want to ever go into a territory that's going to set you off, and as you say, like becomes a hugely negative effect and impact on your personal life and all that, because we're not psychologists or anything in that realm. But yeah, like I think if you can explore something that feels very truthful, that leaves you feeling quite vulnerable, and you understand that I'm still here and I'm still still alive. So I think it's an exciting place to get to as an actor, right?
Yeah. And so sort of tethering back to losing yourself in the moment, the topic that we were talking about before, I actively remember what I was experiencing in that moment. It was Jared talking to my father. It was the character Chris talking to the character Joe, the dad. It was Jared the actor talking to the actor. It was me also having an imaginary sort of experience with an old Meisner teacher that was like the dogma of that was preventing me. So it was like this, I don't know, like multi-layered vulnerable experience that all together, the amalgam of it, the result was freedom. and it was one of the two times that I've experienced multiple techniques working at the same time, sort of morphing in and out of each other while being exposed, living truthfully in the moment, but always knowing that, hey, and like, this is amazing. I'm just an actor having fun, and all this stuff is going on.
And I think, it harked back to, way back when we started doing Uta Hagen things. It's just that knowledge of yourself as well, isn't it? Like, it's sort of knowing your self-identity and stuff that really helps being able to get to those places. If you're constantly reaching, trying to be somebody else, trying to, attain emotions, all that stuff, like, a lot of it's just having a concrete knowledge of you, isn't it? And I always remember, I don't know, we seem to be name dropping quite a lot of actors tonight. I don't know what's going on. But Sir Ian McKellen said, because he was in the closet for like so many years, he says the moment that he came out, he felt his acting, all of a sudden he became a lot more open, a lot more vulnerable, because for years he'd locked away this secret, like, he didn't want to share with anybody, sort of thing. Like, I think that's a thing, right? Just having such an explicit knowledge of yourself, and like, what triggers you emotionally, and a number of different things is such a strength, as an actor.
I want to get on stage and act so bad right now. I can't even tell you. Like, I'm gonna go rehearse something.
Yeah, go out the streets in Atlantic City. Go on, get going, and
blend right in with all of the wackiness that goes on the boardwalk.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do chapter 30. We got two more chapters: style and then epilogue. So 31, style.
Yeah, I mean, I've got bits in style. I felt like, Uta, you've had an absolute knockout, book here. It's been amazing. I've loved it. And then the style chapter just seemed a bit like meh. Like, but hey, it is what it is. I agree with all the points she makes in the style chapter. I was just waiting for a big payoff, finish off for the final chapter.
It was a little tasting,
She's given so much. She's given so much, so we can't. Yeah.
So the takeaway for me is style is realistic, surrealistic, romantic, satirical, farcical. Those are labels that are put on afterwards in order to categorize and sell. It's not something that you should work towards playing. But I don't know if I necessarily agree that it's not both. So again, I took issue with it. So I agree and understand that it's a label for categorization so that we can put the book on this side or put the book on that side. However, if I know that I am in a romantic comedy, that style should elicit in me a type of awareness and process that a certain approach to the role and relationship would differ if I was in a classical piece or if I was in a murder mystery. So I think that although they are labels for categorization, I don't think that it's intelligent for an actor to not be aware of them and at least consider the genre and the style that you're in order to inform how you approach the role in the relationships. So I don't know. I understood it, but I have a little issue with it.
Yeah, I think I think what she's trying to put the finger on is our tendency as human beings to put labels on things. Once a label's been put on something, there's certain stereotypes, certain things that we maybe bring to it, like assumptions, maybe. And I think what she's trying to argue is, like, be open to all of the possibilities. If it's in the, I don't know, romance genre, be open to the fact that, like, you can explore different avenues as you go into the romance genre. Don't just think I am playing romance, I guess. But I do agree with you in that there needs to be a respect for where you are as well. So Shakespeare, for instance, like, I'm a big fan of, like, if you don't give those words.
What? Shakespeare? I don't know. I haven't heard of him. New playwright?
He's up and coming, Jared. You want to check him out. But if you don't give him the respect, like the words, the text, like, if you don't approach it in a certain manner, like for Shakespeare, in my opinion, it's you look at the text before even like doing any sort of prep work on the acting at all, like, then it just becomes a harder job. So yeah, I think there's certain styles that just lend itself to approaching it in a certain way. But then also, you know, she says, like, if you're playing high drama, you know, a really high, gritty, dramatic piece, and you've just had this big argument, how many times does an argument you end up rolling on the floor and laughter afterwards because you realise you've been silly
Yeah,
about something or whatever.
I agree with
And I
that.
get that. I get what she's making the point of there. You know, it's just don't make it two dimensional. Like,
Right.
don't get stuck in a yeah.
Because it's labeled with romantic or drama, or that shouldn't confine you and be the only style, the only thing that you use to bring the character, the relationship, and the circumstances to life. But I think it can inform your choices, and it can inform the approach to the script. Um,
Yeah.
so even though it is a categorization label that's put on afterwards, I think completely closing, and maybe I'm misunderstanding and misinterpreting it, but completely ignoring that is just as bad to me, in my opinion, as looking at it and saying, "Oh, I'm in a rom-com. I can only act this way." No, I
Mm.
can act dark, deep dark inside that, rom-com, but I just need to be
Mm.
aware. Yeah. Anyway.
No, I agree. Yeah, like, and I just thought it was, you know, lovely points, but I was just waiting for a big like boom, like it's been such a brilliant ride, such a brilliant
Great
ride,
book.
and then she finishes off with epilogue, right? She just
Epilogue.
sums a few bits up at the end there. Um, I mean, yeah, again, I'm just kind
So I have two bullets on this one. To accomplish a technique which will allow for a genuine existence on stage can take a lifetime to accomplish. Yeah,
of,
like
yeah.
this is not the fast path to getting on the Disney Channel or Netflix, right? You and I, as as preaching here, is this is a journey, right?
Yeah.
And it's a life journey. We're always learning. We should always be learning and growing and evolving and working on our skills. Should always be.
Mm. Mm. And within that as well, you know, to give her the final words in respect to her, that she managed to finish off the book with the words "respect for acting." Always like when somebody does that. But she kind of says, you know, that maybe we get some criticism as actors, like we're maybe not seen as the most skilled or whatever, or even once we get successful or quote unquote successful at what we do, we get looked at like an animal in a cage, and all this paparazzi come along to try and take photos of us, all that stuff. Like, you know, and I think she just says, you know, keep down this path, lifelong learner, working hard, all that stuff, and yeah, just sort of we can have respect for ourselves if we're doing that, and respect for the craft of acting, sort of thing, which was lovely, a lovely way that she finished it off
Read,
on it.
I don't know where I read it, but the actors used to be buried in the same section of the cemetery as people that were believed to have been witches. Like that's how categorized actors were.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No,
I
you look at it historically, totally. Like, yeah, it's
the
yeah, never has it been, I guess, a highly sought after profession as such. Eh?
I wrote down the sentences that she ended the book with. So to bring an audience the revelation of the failings and aspirations, the dreams and desires, the negative and the positive aspects of human beings. This is what we should set as our goal as committed theater artists. Then we will be respected and have respect for ourselves and respect for acting. Like that was a beautiful way to end the book, I thought.
No, it's a little bit, and it's just that, and it's like don't come into this looking for fame, looking for um, admiration, looking to be adored. Like, if you're going in for any of those reasons, like go and do something else. Go on Love Island, which is on TV right now. You know, but if you want to be committed to the path of acting, you know, it's just been on this journey, which is always what we sort of talk about here on Two Guys Talking Craft, and I love it. I just, yeah, I love her vision and principles and values on the craft of acting, and it's you come away feeling enthralled, you come away feeling inspired, and just knowing, like that, even if you try to do one thing, a day with your acting, like one little thing, improve by 1% each day. That's great. Like that's a fantastic thing, like, and if you do that consistently over time and just appreciate that it's part of you, it's part of what makes you you, and it's always going to be there, like, and just play the long game, innit? Like just love the journey.
I'm going to take you outside just so you can see the ocean before we end. Hold on.
Beautiful.
Take you outside.
We need some inspiring Hans Zimmer music right here. Look at that, people. Look at that.
That's
the beautiful.
That's the inlet from the Atlantic. It's a little inlet off the Atlantic Ocean.
And that's stunning.
And then wait, can you see the casinos? The casinos are, well, there's the water tower that you can see.
I mean, not as inspiring, an end casino, but hey, it's real life, right? It's real life. It's an obstacle that gets in the way of that natural beauty out there. But hey, guys, look out to the sea, be inspired, follow your dreams and journeys in acting. Indra's loving the beach. Indra loves the beach, Jared.
Indra, come be my guest. Come to America. We'll go to the beach. Hey,
yes, people.
So, Adam, thank you yet again, an amazing session with you. I'm glad we really took the time to dive in deep on this book. Yeah. We really did. We didn't rush through it at all. So yeah, this was good.
I've learned so much, I've been able to articulate so many things I've thought and not had the words for before. And it's quite fitting. It's so fitting that you're out there on that balcony, because that is literally like the first episode of Two Guys Talking Craft we did over a year ago now. You were out there on that balcony.
I was at my mom's balcony, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. It was at your mom's. Okay, yeah. Okay. It's a different balcony. Yeah, I was thinking it was the same one. But you were at a balcony in Atlantic City. So it's quite a fitting. And next episode, Jared, we're going to have a Two Guys Talking Craft celebration, right? That's the plans. And we'll fill people in with what we're doing in that episode a bit later on. Yeah?
Fill everybody in. But as always, love catching up with you. Great conversation. And everybody that does not yet have the book, Respect for Acting by Uta Hagen, should absolutely get it and read it and put it in their library.
1,000,000%. All right, Jared. Well, we're going to be back. The plan is next week, right? Hopefully. We'll be back live next week. Since we missed the week before, we're going to try and come back a week early. So for all you Two Guys Talking Craft fans that like to join us on the live, join us then. And thank you so much if you joined us on the live today. We hugely appreciate it. If you're listening on the podcast, we also very much appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you again very soon.
Bye, everybody. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Take care.